Hello and welcome back to Back Corner Comics. Today we're going to be talking about Shade the Changing Man by Peter Milligan and Chris Bachalo with cover art by Brendan McCarthy. And if you don't know who Brendan McCarthy is, you've seen his work through, movies like Mad Max Fury Road and Furiosa, where he was not the lead concept artist, but he provided a lot of concept art and a lot of designs in terms of sequences and stuff like that. So you really got a lot of talent in this omnibus here. And this is a volume one. I don't know if it says it here. Yeah, volume one right there on the spine. This is the dust jacket. It has this really good texture to it. A texture that invokes madness. Madness. Yeah, really fun stuff. But yeah, Shade the Changing Man is a originally Steve Ditko character that he created, I believe, in the 70s. I could be wrong there, but I believe it was. And that series is really cool. I've read that. It's interesting because it's like this espionage relationship sort of storyline. It's really cool. It's very out there, very trippy, much like a lot of Steve Ditko's other creations. And so DC saw fit to revitalize Shade the Changing Man, and Peter Milligan took over. If you're not familiar with Peter Milligan, he was a part of the British takeover that happened in the comic scene during the late 80s and early 90s. So he came over with Alan Moore and Neil Gaiman and, E.T. Cetera. And all those dudes originally wrote for 2000 AD, which maybe one day we'll look at some of those comics if I can get my hands on some. But yeah, here is Shade the Changing Man. You get this amazing. Oh, my head's in the way. You get this amazing art on board sort of situation here. Let's crack it open. Get great end papers, which is reminiscent of Shade's coat. So yeah, the story here starts with a young girl named Kathy who is on the way to visit her parents with her boyfriend, who is a black man. And if you are an American, you know that race has always been a very touchy subject here. And so she's going to the deep south with this black man, and she's apprehensive of introducing her parents to him, but she doesn't care because she loves him deeply. And when they arrive to her parents' house, she finds them murdered, and the killer jumps out of the house and basically attempts to kill her. The police arrive on the scene, but they kill her boyfriend because he's black and they think that he's actually the assailant, but he's really not. So you really have this great start to this entire plot line. And like I said, Brendan McCarthy did the cover art, and this is just fantastic. This is what they use on the dust jacket, rightfully so. It's a slippery sucker. Um, but yeah, here's Kathy, and here's her boyfriend, and then the situation happens with the killer. And so the killer is going to be executed, and when he does get executed, Shade transitions into his body because he needs a body to kind of like house his spirit form, if you will. And so while all of this is going on, something called the American Scream is slowly taking over the American psyche. And the American Scream is basically the inherent madness within America. And that's kind of like what Peter Milligan wanted to say with this whole series. So you have this confluence of things going on within this plot. And I've only read up until issue 10, so that's about like a little under half of this omnibus. And I can say it's much in the vein of what DC Vertigo titles would end up becoming, where it's a little bit more in line with literature and these higher concept ideas. And Chris Bachalo's art is really great throughout. I mean, he's still kind of in his adolescent type of art. I would say it's not like immediately what you would consider what we know of Chris Bachalo now. Or is it Chris Bachalo? I don't know. These two FBI agents kind of come into play. They're investigating everything that's going on between Shade and Kathy and the American Scream. And one of them is an older gentleman who's kind of, he has cancer, so he has nothing to lose. And I really like his character because he adds a certain amount of unpredictability between the two and into the story. So I wonder if the American Scream is going to get to him at some point. But here you have Shade enacting the powers of the M-Vest, which is what allows him to manipulate the things around him and the reality around him, right? So his real body is trapped in the realm of madness, which is where the American Scream comes from. And it's cool because he keeps referring to his, deceased real body as an umbilical cord to the earth reality in which all of this is taking place in. I believe they use dimension, so it's a dimension instead of reality, but whatever, same thing, right? Another really great Brendan McCarthy cover. There is this plot line here that involves JFK. As Americans, we are obsessed with the JFK assassination. There is talk to this day about what happened and why it happened and all of that stuff. So you have a writer here who is trying to do this novel, an investigative novel on who killed JFK. And this whole plot line is very interesting. It ends in a very out there way. You get the JFK head, and he's kind of like eating people and sending them into this realm of madness. Here's a shooting gallery of various JFK heads, and Kathy is here trying to survive the shooting gallery, and she falls through these layers of reality to find the writer's daughter. This is really cool. So the two FBI agents that I mentioned earlier are in a helicopter, and they're going towards this incident with the whole JFK thing, and then they see the American Scream, and he's embodied as Uncle Sam. So you're getting a lot of really cool imagery. I won't say anything more in terms of plot. As you can tell, Chris Bachalo's art style is really cool. It's very different than where he would end up, but still very, very cool. And then you get these amazing Brendan McCarthy covers. I will say what has kept me going is not necessarily the overall plot. It's the relationship between Kathy and Shade. I'm really enjoying it. They get kind of into this amorous relationship because a lot of this has to do with, how does Kathy trust Shade when Shade is inhabiting the body of the man that killed her parents? Her overcoming that is very interesting to me. But she has feelings for Shade, so how does that, you know, here they go into Hollywood. I'm not gonna go into specifics again. I don't want to spoil too much, but his M vest turns into, it manifests into like a coat, and you get the backstory of where he comes from, which is a place called Meta, and all of that stuff that I mentioned, like the dimension of madness and Meta and the M vest and manipulating reality. All of that comes from Steve Ditko's original creation of Shade the Changing Man, but Peter Milligan kind of just updates it and tweaks it up a little bit. So this isn't a continuation in any, form of that definition. It's just a kind of like retweaking, a recalibration, like modernizing Shade the Changing Man. This storyline's really good. So there's a lot of themes of identity and sexuality here, which was, really popular to explore at that time. Maybe not popular, but like a budding interest in that kind of exploration. Neil Gaiman talks about how Sandman was mostly bought by women. I see this mostly being bought by women back in the day. But good stuff here. As you can see, Chris Bachalo starts going into his own. Wow, Jamie Hewlett. This is the guy who made Tinkerbell. If you're not familiar, does he draw this issue? No, I don't think he does. That would have been so cool. Wait, does he? No, Bachalo does. This is just fantastic, Jamie Hewlett. Shouts out to Tinkerbell. We'll do a video on that one day. Does he do another one? Holy crap, he does. That's amazing. I had no idea. This is Brendan McCarthy for sure. But yeah, so this is Shade the Changing Man. I need to finish the volume. Like I said, I've only read 10 issues in. Just got it recently. But yeah, just wanted to share it with you guys. And I don't really have too much stuff to say about it in terms of the plot. I like it. I enjoy it where it's at right now. I don't know if I will later on. But yeah, maybe I'll do a proper review later on. But this is Shade the Changing Man. And this is Back Corner Comics. Thank you for watching.